Last August, we spoke to an Idaho Falls man who started an interesting fundraising project, service project. He called it a bigger or better challenge. And he has some news to update us on with that project today. Eugene Engmann, glad to have you back.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's
So
good to be
just
back.
just just to remind people about what in August we spoke and you had this challenge where you started with a paper clip and then you were trading it up for something bigger or better with the end goal of, donating or giving away the final thing to someone. Um, what started that? Why did you decide to do that project?
Growing up, I've always had a good community around me, people to support me, to lift me up during tough times, and just to be there for me. And I've always told myself that when I can, I would love to give back to the community. And I try to do it in different ways. This year, my goal was to pick a charity of choice and raise some money for them. But I wanted to do it in a way that was different, a way that would also not involve myself, but the community as well. And the bigger or better challenge was born. In the past I've seen people trade paper clips and do it as a game or do it as a competition. And I told myself maybe I can do it as a way to make this interesting, but also as a way of giving back to the community. And that's how it all started. I thought about different charities I could give back to. And when I heard about the Ronald McDonald Family House of Charities and also the family room story, I decided that, they are close to home. Why not do it for a charity that's home?
Where are you at with that now?
It's right now it's done. My goal was to finish this project in December, January. And so in December, we presented the final items to the Ronald McDonald Room. However, I believe when we spoke, we might have been at about, we might have been with the, might have been at the stage where I had just gotten the 3 night camper van stay. But I would love to give you a rundown of how things progressed. We started with the paperclip, and I was walking down my neighborhood and I met a neighbor and I was like, hey, I'm working on this. Would you like to, you know, would you like to? No, so we started with a paperclip. I met a friend and told her about it. I texted her, one of my friends, Amy. She's a business owner in town. And she said, hey, come to my store. I might have something for you. Then she gave me a journal, which was worth more than maybe 100 times that. So went from a few cents to about 11, $12. And then I was walking down my neighborhood and I met a neighbor out there. His wife was, outside, and I was like, hey, can I speak to you guys about the project I'm doing? And they were like, sure. I told them the story, and the husband goes into the garage. He tinkles about for, 10 minutes, and I'm 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm thinking, what is he doing in his garage? He comes back with this big box of tools, pristine tools he hasn't used. And he's like, yeah, I would like to trade that for the journal. And that was about 150 when I checked online about the price. And then I reached out to a friend in town, Jake from Romaine. He's a very good friend. And I was like, hey, I'm doing this. Would you guys be interested in participating to help raise funds for the Ronald McDonald Home? And Jake was like, come on to the store whenever you have the time. So I went over and he traded that for a brand new center table, which was about $500. And I reached out to another friend and they were like, well, you know, come, I think we can put something together for you. They own the luxury camper RV business that you can rent one of their RVs and go on a trip. And they put together a package worth $900. And so we went from a paperclip to about $900. And then I did a story with you. And when I did a story with you, Josh from East Idaho News said that, hey, East Idaho News would like to, you know, add a voucher to that to bring the price up from 900 to $2,000. And at the same time we did the first interview, people started reaching out. And I was taking donations as well, not just trading. And so people would Venmo me based on the link that was sent out. And I gathered all that money and was able to raise about $1,500 in donations from people I haven't seen, people who just read the story. And that was the best part of it, that people who these families at the East Area at the Ronald McDonald Farm home wouldn't meet, helping them. And we got $1,500 worth of donations. Aside that, I spoke to a friend at Teton Toyota, Ray Augustus, and he said, Teton Toyota would love to be part of this. How much are we right now in terms of training? I told him, well, we're at about $2,900. And he was like, okay, let me put something together for you. And so he came back with a package which was worth about a little over 3 grand. And so when you totaled that to with the $1,500, we were able to raise $8,090 as this endeavor. And so in December, we presented a $1,500 check to the Ronald McDonald Family Home, and also trade values of about, I think, 65.90 to the family home. And it was great because what the trades they got were things they could use. They got a voucher from Teton Tutor that allowed them to rent one of the spaces in town for events. That would help them cut down their costs. They got different things they could use. And so it was a blessing to see how this progressed from just the paper to over $8,000. My goal was $2,500 in the beginning, but God is great.
A total of 4 months.
A total of 4 months, yeah.
Yeah, man. How did they react when you gave this to them?
Oh, they were excited. The nice thing about it is in this day of social media, it's easier to spread the message. And so when I post on Facebook that I'm taking donations or I'm looking to trade, I also tag them in it, and they share it on their page. And they always expressed how grateful they are and how much it's going to impact the families that stay there. Some of them, it's as a dad of three. It can be hard when you have a child in the ICU and you have to just think about them, but think of where you're going to live. And the fact that for these families is amazing. And so they were very grateful. I enlisted one of my neighbors. She had twins in the past, and she had used the Ronald McDonald home. And she was one of the first people to donate. But when we're also giving the presentation, I was like, hey, would you like to volunteer and make cookies? She makes amazing cookies. She's called Kate. And so we did it as a service project. We did a donation, and then we also baked cookies for these big, really big cookies. Very good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. So is this something, do you want to do something like this again soon?
It's interesting. Every year, around Christmas time or closer to Christmas, I pick a project and I try to do something. Sometimes it's making a motivational video. This year, it was the bigger or better trade. And I haven't decided to do it again, but I haven't closed my mind to the idea. I would love to do it again. And I think people are now aware of what this can do and how big this can get. And once they realize that, yes, it's not just some person doing it for attention, but to raise for a good cause, it could be even bigger this second time around if I decide to do it. I haven't closed my mind to the idea. I'm trying to see how busy my year would be, and then I'll plan everything in it. So
Yeah.
if I decide to do it again, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. But from you going through that 4 month long project, what did you take from it?
I learned a lot of patience. There were days I asked myself, why did I even do this? There were some silent days, because one of the big things is the bigger the item gets, the harder it is to trade. So I learned not to doubt. One of the other things I learned was people are always willing to give to help people in need. And the people that did the trade, none of them, the reason why it also grew significantly was none of them were willing to, they agreed to the trade, but they didn't take the item. For example, Teton Toyota, I was trading the $2,900, but they decided not to take it. They were like, hey, we are not going to take it. We just want to add to it, but would match it as if we are trading. People are just amazing. Those were the two bigger things I learned. Patience, let things play out, don't rush things. It's okay if it takes a longer time. And also, just reach out to people. People are always willing to help. Sometimes people don't know what to do to help. But once they find a cause that's great, they are willing to jump on and help. Yeah.
I do have to ask you, since we talked, a lot of our conversation revolved around your red book that you collect signatures from, or inspirational thoughts from people as you travel. Have you had anyone new in the last 4 months, 4 or 5 months that you're particularly, that you thought was significant or anything?
This year I haven't given it out a lot, but this year I've started again taking it wherever I go. And it's interesting though. I recently reached, I believe, more than 100 people. Yeah, have written in the book. If I'm right, I'll have to double check the number. But I believe more than 100 people have written in it. And recently, when I started the book, I didn't realize that someone who Emmett Till grew up with and stood up for would have written in my book. And you might have met Dr. Miller. Yeah, he recently wrote in my book. And he was the classmate of Emmett Till, and he spoke about how, when people picked on him, Emmett Till stood up for him. And so that's really big. I always say that, I didn't realize how much history this book would contain. And I've had the grandson of Oppenheimer writing the book. I've had Emmett Till, writing the book. I don't know who will be next. And I've had a lot of astronauts and Air Force fighter pilots and, housekeepers and just different people writing the book. And so the book is gathering some historic value to it. That's what I can say. And it's amazing to see the different aspects, the different walks of life everyone who writes in comes from. People have expressed interest in buying the book if I decide to publish it. The goal is to publish it someday. And so once it gets full, maybe I'll think about the next step. But yeah, people keep writing it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Well, Eugene, it's been good catching up with you.
You
Anything
too.
else, anything else you want to add about or anything?
You never know. The red book might come to you, so just be prepared for it. But if there's anything outside that I would like to add is just look for look for people to help. There's always someone you can help. It could be a smile, it could be anything. But when you look for the opportunity to help, you would always find it. I always tell people that the people who smile the most are sometimes the people who actually need help. And usually it's a smile that's covering it. But once you get to know people, get to know them, you would realize that there's something you can always do to bless a life.